All right, everyone. Today's special guest, a friend of mine, Kien, Dr. Kien. Now, look. I met him at a conference, and ever since then, I'm like, this guy's doing it right. So he was in conventional medicine, but really expanded his awareness, his education, and now he's doing big things. We're going to learn a little bit more about him, but really what he's doing. Remember, we always bring people changing the world, and he's one of them. Doc, thank you for joining the show, man.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
It's the first time I ever shook someone's hand before the show. We like this, everyone who's watching, we did a little, like an old school, but that was really cool. So I was saying that we were at a conference, the A Forum conference, and I'm sitting in, and I go, who is this dynamic guy? His energy is radiating, right? Because we met at like the dinner place.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's got energy for days. I still believe that. I still see it even this morning. But I'm like, and you were hosting, but also you were like educating, and it was like, I gotta know who this guy is and what he's doing. Lo and behold, you're here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and we get to hang out.
And we get to hang out. Yeah. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I think I brought you on the show because you're doing big things, and that's what we got to talk about, how we can change people's lives.
Yeah, certainly. So I was trained as a conventional medical doctor, and in a specialty called interventional radiology. And for people in the audience who don't know what that is, radiology is medical imaging. CT scans, ultrasound, X-rays, and radiologists actually can pierce inside the body to see what kind of disease is lurking on inside. That's the radiology part. The interventional part means that I'm a minimally invasive surgeon, and I use radiology to perform minimally invasive procedures. So I worked on people with end-stage diabetes, hypertension, cancers. I've done these procedures where I open up people's leg arteries, for people whose legs are about to fall off. People who have tumors. I've taken a small tube and drove a small tube up the tumors and put in chemotherapy. All this new advanced medical technology. But about 5 years ago, I find myself, I bought my dream house, got my dream car. I'm flying around the world talking about, techniques in advanced interventional radiology. But underneath my white coat, I was sick. I was overweight. I was diabetic. I was hypertensive. I was on prescription medications. And I said to myself, man, here's this guy giving medical advice, and I'm starting to get stage 1 of the diseases that I'm treating. And something needs to change.
That's powerful, because just to understand the contrast of you being sick as a whole, and then showing up and healing people. And not to take away anything from interventional radiology, but that was crazy. Like, I did a rotation radiology. I was like, what am I watching? What technology is this? Like, this was something and that's so amazing that you were doing that. But it's interesting that it came to a place where, and it's a lot of doctors are out there, like, they're in themselves sick, right? They're suffering with something like diabetes or prediabetes or hypertension. So then, how did you feel? How did you feel when you were walking around doing these talks? How did you feel in your body at that point?
I just felt exhausted all the time. Yeah. I just felt like I needed to put in the work, because here's the thing. I mean, we went into medical school, and we weren't given the environment or the skills to be healthy or to succeed. We were used to staying up all night, cramming for a test, and then running into doing your rotations the next day, 80 to 100-hour work weeks, and studying, and the food that they have in the hospital is never any good, and we didn't get any training on nutrition.
Right, yeah.
So we weren't really given the tools to succeed in health. So I felt like crap, but I felt like this is the code we bought into. We bought into, hey, you are a doctor. We sacrifice part of ourselves to give health to other people, but part of that system is kind of broken. And it was really around that time where I felt like a fraud, because I was starting to get chronic disease and I didn't have the tools. And it was really one patient. I remember I was about to do a paracentesis on somebody, a 43-year-old man with terminal pancreatic cancer. I was supposed to drain 10 liters of fluid from his belly. And I was thinking, I'm going to walk into this room, and this guy is going to be all sickly. I walk in the room, he looks into my eyes, he says, "Hey doc, how are you doing, man?" And it was right around the time that I was sick. I recently just came out of surgery for my shoulder, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do surgery anymore. It was right around the time also the person I thought I was going to marry at the time left me for another man, only because I was so focused on work. And then when he smiled at me, when he gave me that energy,
I was like, how are you so happy and how are you able to radiate? And he says, Doc, it's simple. I am so I'm so fortunate to be alive right now, and I have a choice. I have a choice every single moment how I show up in the world, and I want to spread love and joy. And it was right then that I said, here, I'm a fraud doctor, but I have choices now too. And then it was really doing the deep work and the deep dive. It was studying up more on nutrition, epigenetics, doing a fellowship in anti-aging regenerative medicine, and then doing a lot of my own healing that I was able to actually reverse those conditions in 6 months.
In 6 months.
In 6 months.
So
Hemoglobin of A1C over 7, and then down to like 5.2 in a matter of 6 months.
Okay, you got to give us a little. What were the things you're doing? So you started eating better, and we know that that's like immediately you feel that.
Yeah.
Were you working out more? Did you get on supplements? Were you doing meditation? Like, what are some of the secrets, Doc?
Some of the secret. Know. Okay, so earlier on, it was just the physical stuff. It was just, okay, let me just start sleeping right? And I started off every day, every morning with a cup of coffee, 6 pumps of International Delight, and then throughout the day, just to get me through, was Monster drinks chock full of sugar.
Wow.
So it was just giving that up, all right, and changing it. For me, I swapped it all out with sparkling water. So now I just drink some sparkling water every time I have a craving, but now I don't even have craving, so that's great. So it was that, sleeping, and then it was exercising. And we can get into the details of that, but it was just really focusing on those things. Once I started to do some deeper personal work, I've done stuff like with Tony Robbins, with Mind Valley and things like that. This really all started. I have to take us way, way back. I was a boat refugee to this country. I was born a couple years after, the end of the Vietnam War. And my parents escaped, by boat with me on a boat. We were on a boat with 2,000 refugees.
Wow.
We were packed in like sardines. I was like 6 months old at the time. And I was the only baby that survived.
Whoa.
Right? I had dysentery. I was a floppy baby. My dad, every time he talks about it, he gets choked up. He's like, I held you in my arms and you were just this floppy baby, wouldn't move.
Wow.
I spent 3 additional months in a Philippine refugee camp. And then we got sponsored to Los Angeles by a Catholic church. And you would think a kid who like escaped death, now in America, would grow up feeling really, really grateful, right? Not the case. I grew up feeling like I was this Asian poor immigrant kid. I got bused to a more affluent area for school. So I was constantly being teased for like the holes in my hand-me-down clothes, for the stinky food my mom made. Everybody was calling me a chink.
Yeah.
That didn't feel good. So I grew up with the energy of not being enough. I'm not worthy. Not rich enough, not tall enough, not American enough, not white enough, all these not enough feelings. And I carried that energy going into medical school. I actually wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. I wanted to use my voice to command influence. But, my heroes were Tony Robbins, Robin Williams, Mick Jagger. But I looked at me, and I looked at all the other Asian people in the media, and nobody looked like me. And so I didn't feel like that was a choice. And plus, my mom said, you have 3 choices. You could be a doctor, an MD, or a physician.
Yeah.
So I went to medical school. But that feeling of not being enough, brings me to this quote of, from the Dalai Lama. He said what he found most interesting about humanity, he said, man, because he could sacrifice his health in order to make money, and then sacrifice his money to recuperate his health. I feel so many of my clients, and me personally, I did that. Because when you feel like you're not enough, you're going to be chasing outside, for that thing. And for me, it was trying to get the car, trying to get the house, and I still didn't feel that.
Yeah.
That had to come from within. And I realized that so many people, if you start chasing those external things, not recognizing that what you really have is within you, you get stressed, and the stress will lead you to poor habits. Those poor habits will drive a low bioenergetic state, which we could talk about in a second, and that's what gets people chronic disease. But it's really kind of finding yourself, finding your authenticity, and finding, rediscovering why you're here. That gets you back into alignment, and that brings you back into health.
Hell yeah, man. And that's part of the big reason why I brought you here, because I know that you are so into that mind, body, and authenticity. And authenticity is literally the theme now of the whole show, right? Like, the people who come here are super authentic, and that's what you're putting out there. I could see you as an actor, actually. That's really funny. But the fact of the matter that you can go deep within, heal parts of you, right? And it's deeply ingrained since childhood.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is that trauma, or that adaptation that you made, drove that force for you to become where you are now. But now you are where you are now. You can look back and go, you know what? It doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I've been whole. I don't need anything else. So I'm so happy you did that work. So to understand, you did this physical work. You're starting to feel better already. Then the deep work.
Yeah.
So then what comes out of the other door then on the other side? This radiating guy here?
This radiating guy, right? This person in thrive state, and really, nobody would go back the other way once you start feeling this good, right? Once you start understanding what health is, and what feeling very vibrant is, you're not going to go back the other way.
No.
And the work here and the work that I talk about in my book Thrive State is really around epigenetics and this whole concept of bioenergetics, right? People ask me, what is bioenergetic medicine? Well, bioenergetic medicine is really the study of the transfer and flow of energy in living organisms. We're all made of energy, and energy always interacts with other energy. And in fact, our bodies listen to every form of energy, be it sound, be it light, be it emotion. All those things can get transmuted. It hits our receptor in the eye. The receptor in the eye turns it into energy, into a nerve potential that goes to our brain. Our brain then responds by firing out hormones that then talk to our cells. So energy is always communicating. So people ask me, okay, well, what is this peak performance longevity thing that you're doing? Well, what actually makes up our physical body? Every individual cell, we're made up. Each cell is the individual unit of our entire body, right? Our cells form tissues, form organs. The organs talk to each other through energy to form organ systems. So for us to perform at our best, for peak performance, mental means that our nervous system's firing on point. Physical means that our muscle cells are firing very well. So we want that peak performance. We want our cells to perform optimally as well. So when our cells are optimally performing and are in the optimal state, we get peak performance and we get longevity. On the flip side of that, if our cells are not optimally functioning, and let's just say, there's a lung cell and it's not extracting 100% of the oxygen, it's only extracting 50%. Well, then the heart only gets 50% of the oxygen. What is it supposed to do? It's supposed to pump blood to the rest of the body. Now it's not going to have that. It's not going to have its fuel, and it's going to pump less to the rest of the body. The rest of the body is going to feel that. So a suboptimal cell will lead to suboptimal systems. And what are suboptimal systems lead to? Well, suboptimal immune system, you'll get autoimmune disease and cancer. Suboptimal nervous system, you'll get dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Suboptimal cardiovascular system, atherosclerosis, strokes, heart attacks. So really, what then determines whether our cells are functioning optimally or suboptimally? And this is what the bioenergetics are. It's actually the energetic state, the energetic signals that we're giving our cells, because our cells are constantly listening. Our DNA is constantly listening to all the different energies that are coming inside of that cell, right? So that's the cool thing. People ask, okay, well, I get disease, because of my genetics. Both my grandparents had diabetes, which is why I probably got it early.
Right.
And those sugary drinks didn't help either.
For sure.
But what actually reversed that? Well, if we could change that energetic signal, and that's what I call a bioenergetic state. So when we give good energetic signals to our cells will be in that peak performance state. And that gives us longevity, that gives us immunity, that gives us, being free of chronic disease. That's how I got into this space.
Amazing. Bioenergetics, because no one's ever come on the show, sat on that chair and talked about bioenergetics. So this is really exciting because it's aligned with the whole epigenetics concept, right?
It's completely aligned. It's really epigenetics with more of the metaphysical component too,
Right.
because there are things that are not, that don't actually tangibly, you actually see a physical hormone or cell or anything, but it's those energies that also affect, how our genes are expressed. So that's entirely what it is.
So I'd be interested, aside from like good nutrition versus processed foods, right? Like clean air in your home versus, different volatile organic compounds in them. What are the energetic things that really have a positive or negative influence on our cells?
Great question. So basically every energetic input our DNA listens to, but there are 7 things. If you focus on these 7 major things, your risk of getting chronic disease is going to be super low, and that your ability to be in a thrive state is going to be really high. These 7 things are nutrition, movement, sleep, emotional and stress mastery, our thoughts and mindset, relationships, and then also purpose. And then my book actually goes through all the scientific data as to, okay, if you've got purpose, what's happening to your, what's happening to the transcription of your stress genes, what's happening to the inflammatory genes. So it turns out there are basically two main pathways that our cells go through. If you give the cell everything it needs, it thrives. So your telomeres are going to be long. You're going to get the maximal performance out of that cell. And then if not, if you don't give the cell what it needs, it gets into a danger state. And when the cells are in the danger state, that's when you get an increase in inflammation, a decrease in immunity, and a propensity to get chronic disease.
Wow. And it makes sense because it's a cell, it's the environment that it's in. And if we think from a cellular level, obviously it's going to go into the tissue level, the system level,
Yep.
and then you're just going to be like, oh, well, my digestive system's a mess now. But really simple, if we can implement those 7 things, which are a lot of the overriding themes that we talk about on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, the viewers and listeners, if by now, it's already like over and over, we're saying the same things in different ways, but it's really powerful because here on the Thrive State book that you have, you're saying that you mentioned these, but we can now learn about the science connected to it.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So for all of the white coats that are like, what's he saying about this energetic metaphysical stuff here? And then we open it, and we go, oh, there's a little bit of studies on it. Hey,
Yeah.
right? Like that's amazing that you can translate that for the population because oftentimes metaphysical stuff is just thrown out the window because we're like, oh wait, no, that's way too
woo-woo. But where we're at now is the science is finally catching up to what we probably intuitively have known for a really long time.
Mm-hmm. And I've been feeling that. Like that's why I went into holistic medicine because I'm like, we're not just the physical. That's silly. There's mental, emotional. There's a spiritual aspect. I love that you spoke about the sense of purpose, and I want to talk about that one because I remember doing a show about sense of purpose and helping people find a sense of purpose. And we had a few people sit here and talk about like learning maybe what like field you may or should be in. Mm-hmm. How the heck does someone find a sense of purpose if we are sitting in a cubicle right now and they're like, how did I get here? Like now they 2 kids at home and a wife, and they're like, what? Well, I never even got to do anything.
Yeah, great question. Well, firstly, the sense of purpose, I want to just give a little bit of scientific data. One, it makes your telomeres longer. People have studied people study this concept called eudaimonic well-being or eudaimonic happiness, and that's the well-being you feel when you're like connected to something bigger. Those people have longer telomeres. Those people have this gene transcription sequence called the conserved transcription response to adversity, which actually raises inflammation and lowers your immunity. Well, if you got purpose, you quiet down that gene. When you've got purpose, if you happen to be in the hospital, you spend fewer days in the hospital. If you've got purpose, as an American, you live 7 years longer. If you've got purpose, you also, if you happen to, you'll have lower risk of cardiovascular events like heart attack and stroke, which is the #1 killer in America. So purpose is so important, which is why you're like, how do you tap into purpose? And when I found that out, I started to get analysis paralysis. What's my purpose? And people can get that way, but purpose is actually really simple. And there's actually almost kind of like a biological explanation. And it's really not about finding it, but remembering it.
Oof.
Right? I look at my nieces and nephews and I look at my daughter, they're just being, and they're just happy. And those emotional states of love, of gratitude, of joy, all those things are actually anti-aging and healing medicines. I talk about in my book what happens biochemically when you start feeling those things, right? So what is purpose to me? Purpose to me is the activities, the people, the beingness where you tap into those higher vibrational emotional states like love, like gratitude, and all those things that light you up. Well, that's just your being. That's just your authenticity. And your purpose is just you. Your purpose is you. Your purpose is just you authentically being you and sharing yourself with the world. And for me, what is my purpose? Well, your purpose is also all the experiences in your life, the struggles in your life that you overcome that is now a gift. And it's sharing those things. And it's just, it's not some grandiose thing. It could just be you being a happy person and like, helping out a child or something like that, right? Yeah. It's really that community aspect of, firstly, it's authenticity, it's you, and then it's just sharing you with the world.
Oof, man, that was so well put, man. The remembering part was like everything because that is on the deepest level, I truly believe we're here to just remember who we are.
Yeah.
You know, and by remembering who we are embodying authenticity. And by embodying authenticity, we're changing consciousness. We're changing consciousness. The world is on fire.
Woo!
You know what I mean?
Goosebumps, baby. Look at that. Look at that.
So I so feel that, and that just is like the most liberating thing, because someone who's viewing or listening, going, "How do I find my purpose?" It's exactly what you said. It's like go to your sister's house. She has kids. Go see your niece. Go look at your children playing, and see them in that state of being.
Yeah.
They are not thinking about bills. They're not thinking about, whoa, why did they say that 2 hours ago?
Yep.
They're in this moment of now, moment present mindfulness being, and it's like a fountainhead flowing from there.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful to see that, because that's true authenticity.
Yep.
As adults, can we embody that? Or did society tell us, no, you can't?
Exactly. It's really, so much of chronic disease is just a fabrication of a life that we weren't meant to live. We picked up all these negative programs throughout that makes our lifestyle not really acknowledge just the truth and the knowing and the enoughness and the worthiness of who we really, really are. Mm-hmm. And we walk away from who we are. So now it's just remembering what that is again.
Yeah. And all of those signals could be a distraction to our authenticity. But I love that you said those traumas, those things that we go through, really help reveal our gifts, right? And they show us. And we had, actually, interestingly enough, Dr. Jay Tita, right? He was at A4M, we were all sitting at the same table. Mm-hmm. He said something very similar into overcoming adversity, and how adversity shows us our skills, shows us our gifts, really shows us gives us the direction and understanding, whoa, this is what
How beautiful is our human experience that's the case. Mm-hmm. One could argue, blame it all on society or whatnot,
sure.
But no, we were given those things, we were given those struggles, and now the struggles can now be a part of our awakening.
For sure.
And our gift now to the world.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, man. If you listen, if you take it that way, right? It's all perspective,
Yeah.
right? Because we can go, oh no, I'm beat up, forget it. I'm not, I'm never going to overcome this, and my life is over. Or this is here. This is here for me.
Yeah.
And I have a choice. I love that, man. So we have those 7 things that we're thinking about. We talked about the sense of purpose. What are some really good physical things we can start putting? We got into the mind body, which I love. That's this shows my favorite is when I'm talking about my body. But what are some of the real good physical things that we can start doing, viewers and listeners? Just good habits to start taking in.
Yeah. So let's dive down. Let's go through the very first bioenergetic element of sleep. I find people right now are just not getting quality sleep. So one of the things that people can really do, I think this is the biggest thing, is go to sleep and wake up the same time every day. And, a lot of people are like, they do that during the week because they got work, and on the weekends they're going to change that up. But if you confuse your body by not doing that, your circadian rhythm gets off. When your circadian rhythms are off, your hormones are off, that's going to throw basically all your functions off. So just by going to bed and waking up the same time every day, it's going to be key. We can go into more details as to, if you're having problems sleeping, maybe blue light blocking glasses. Right. I sleep on a chili bed, which is a nice little
keeps you
biohack,
cool, yeah.
Right. And I like to have some magnesium and glycine right before I go to bed too, so that's really awesome. And just having a nice little routine. I create small little ceremonies for myself.
Me too, man.
A small little ceremony as I wake up, because you really want to kind of make life sacred. So when I wake up, I give myself time, for gratitude and move my body. But when I go to bed at the same time, create a little ceremony around sleep. And I think that the viewers will really, really find a lot of benefit from doing that.
Yeah.
I intermittent fast, and I'll change it up. I'll intermittent fast. I'll do time restricted certain days. I'll do OMAD or 1 meal a day every now and then. That's really allowed me to feel like I've got a lot of flexibility metabolically. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm burning carbs or burning fat. So I feel that's really great. I'm pretty sure your viewers already kind of know how to eat. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Right? And we had Dr. Will Cole right before this talk about metabolic flexibility.
Oh, so amazing!
If they don't know, just go back one episode.
Yeah.
So, but that's awesome that we can do that too. So sleep, the fasting aspect. What else?
Well, let's talk emotions. All right. I talk about it in my book. There are emotions like anger, hate, resentment. Those emotions actually causes inflammatory markers to increase. IL-1, IL-6, IL-12, TNF-alpha, All right, that raises inflammation. They'll decrease your immunity, and we just said those other positive emotions are like anti-aging medicines. So we have to be aware of that. So having an emotional inventory is very, very important, and being able to have techniques to switch out of that. So I tell people, I give people one really neat technique is called create space and then act. And ACT is ACT for awareness, choice, and take action.
Nice.
The Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose. And in our choice lies our freedom and growth. So if our life, if our longevity, if our performance, if our optimal health is based on these bioenergetics, and if bioenergetics is all from our choices, if we make better choices, we'll transform who we are. So if you start to feel like you're in a negative, crummy state, all you have to do is tap into your parasympathetic system by creating space, 10 long, deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. And then you activate your parasympathetic. You're actually activating your vagus nerve at that point. And you'll recognize that those negative emotions don't have so much of a hold. And in that space now, once you've created, you could say, oh, okay, why did I just get pissed off? Yeah. Is this an old program that threatened my ego? Is that what happened? So you start asking yourself those questions, and you have the awareness that it was probably some thought that's not even yours that's getting you pissed off. Then you do C, which is choice. Now you're like, okay, well, I know these thoughts aren't mine. I can actually focus on what I want to think and feel. I could start to maybe change the meaning of something, right? So you have the choice to choose to think and feel something different. And finally, take action. Start to do something different now. So if you got all pissed off because somebody just crossed you in the freeway, you're like, okay, I'm gonna let that go. I really want to show up like Ishmael. I want to show up happy. I want to show up vibrancy. Okay, once I get out of my 10 breaths, I'm going to do this. It could just be smile to the next person, or just call somebody and say, hey, what's up? I'm smiling. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And just taking a new action. The more we can do that, the more we can control our choices moment by moment. That creates the bioenergetics that lead us to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance.
Oh, man, couldn't be better. That's amazing. Look, I have so many cut down voice notes on this, like that I want to put on Instagram already, because like you're just dropping these bombs, man. But I noticed, like, first of all, the awareness is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
People are in a reactive state, right? Oh, my girlfriend got me so mad, I'm gonna yell, But it's so important. Just do the 10 breaths.
Yeah.
Just go, okay, I'm gonna react, but let me step back and do 10 breaths, and then see if I want to react again.
Exactly.
99% of the time, right? There's no reaction.
If you create that space, this goes to the same for cravings. This goes to the same for any type of bad habit we currently have. If you create some space, whatever made you want to do that, you can go, okay, some old program or thought might make me want to do that. I get to choose something different.
What an amazing intervention,
right?
Because it's free, it's cheap, and it's pretty damn fast,
right?
Right. So and I love that you said it doesn't have to be in a reactive, like I'm angry.
Yeah.
It can be like, okay, I'm craving sugar really bad. I'm home and I want to eat that bag of cookies that I have here.
Yep.
Maybe I should throw it away, but why do I,
Right.
But doing that breath, like you said, it'll activate the parasympathetic. So now we're more relaxed, and then we get to be aware.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part, even in the awareness, is that action. That action where like let's say, oh, my girlfriend got me really mad. I'm gonna breathe 10 times. Okay, now I have awareness. I still want to not choose something that I'm not used to. It's the unknown, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, let me lead with love instead of fear. But I love that empowering information, man. So many of us can really take that into account.
And it's not perfect. Are those things going to come back again? Yes. Yeah. But the more we exercise that muscle, the more new networks. You had an old network that led to the cravings, right? Yeah. You could just reprogram. And know that anytime you change a habit, every time you try to change a program, Robert Sharman says it's going to be difficult at first, messy in the middle, and then very beautiful at the end. And as long as you can understand that, you're not going to beat yourself up along the way if you happen to mess up.
Yeah.
Like, say you wanted to stop eating sugar and you give yourself a treat. All good, right? Don't beat yourself up. That's the other thing. Beating yourself up creates an energy that leads to inflammation and chronic disease down the road.
Yeah, like the anger, the resentment, right? Like you say, like celebrate it, but then if it doesn't serve you, use the ACT technique.
Right.
What a wonderful, brilliant. Yeah, I'm so happy about that. All right, so you're out here, you're in LA, you're doing concierge medicine, you're going to people's homes, and you're teaching them these bioenergetic pieces to their life, physical performance, optimization. Do you think that we can? Do you think it's possible for everyone to live longer, thrive longer, and be radiating?
Absolutely. The reason why I'm writing this book, and because I just feel so much better, and I almost kind of feel like a superhero version of myself.
Yeah.
I want everybody to be the same. Because if people lived into their purpose and they were the best, and humanity was all about interacting with superheroes, and
Yeah.
we're the entire world is the
amazing.
Justice League.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Right, humanity would just be doing this, right?
Yeah.
We would just be elevating ourselves. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm so excited about this. And what I'm also excited is like most of the almost actually everything in my book you can do for free. There are certain additional things that I do with hormone optimizations. There are things that people might not know about the toxins that are in their bodies or what their gut microbiome status is. But if you focus on these 7 things, you might not even need a doc. But if you're still feeling like crap, if you still got symptoms, then work with a functional medicine,
Yeah.
naturopathic, or integrative doc to be able to figure those things out.
Yeah, perfect, man, perfect. I'm so happy you came on this show. You dropped so many bombs. Like, it's always what brings a lot of joy to me is when I hear professionals like medical doctors, functional doctors talk about the mind-body aspect, understand how bioenergetics, how it affects our cells, and you're preaching that with like radiating joy, man. So you're bringing a lot to the world. I'm really happy that I know you, man. And I'll say this. For everyone viewing or listening, this guy has this amount of energy, even off air, off the mic. You come in, walking through the door, and you're like, let's do this, So I'm really happy. How do we find you?
Well, the book is coming out soon. You can go to thrivestatebook.com to get yourself a copy. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I've just started a podcast myself, but you can find all these things at KienVuMD.
Perfect, man. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I'll be reading the book very soon and sharing it with everyone. When is it going to come out, actually?
April 6th.
April 6th.
Yeah.
All right, so everyone, April 6th, keep your eyes open. And thank you, man. Thank you, Doc. Appreciate it. Dr. Kien Vu, man, dropping bombs. I tell you, like, this is how a doctor should be. Your doctor, if he doesn't